All right, ladies and gents, welcome to the kitchen. I have my lovely assistant.
Science lab.
The science lab. I have my lovely assistant here. What's your name?
Madeline.
And I also have my other assistant who's going to be in and out of the video, I guess. What's your name?
Marvin.
Here we have a glass. This glass is going to represent like your brain, okay? Your brain, all the neurons in it, the neural network that's in it, etc. And as you can see from my glass, there is like this line, okay? Remember this line, that's gonna be really important for this demonstration, okay? Here in the picture, we have a bunch of water, but that water is going to represent a neurotransmitter called serotonin. Everybody say serotonin.
Serotonin.
Serotonin, okay? Serotonin is a neurotransmitter, but a lot of times people have actually called it the happy hormone, even though it's not necessarily a hormone, okay? Remember, it's a neurotransmitter. And, but for the purposes of making sense and the purposes of, you know, this demonstration, we are gonna call this like a happy neurotransmitter, the happy juice. Happy juice, okay? Now the way serotonin works is a good majority of it is produced in your stomach. All of us produce serotonin in our stomach. All right, we also produce small amounts of serotonin in our brain already. But mostly because it's produced in the stomach, serotonin, a lot of times we get serotonin from the things that we eat. So whenever you eat that cheeseburger from McDonald's, that Travis Scott burger, you're adding a little serotonin to your brain, to the neurons. You're flooding your neurons in your brain with serotonin. All right, then you eat
Apple.
You eat an apple, you get another little bit of serotonin.
Apples don't give me serotonin. What about that chocolate cake?
That chocolate cake. Oh. So what happens now? Okay, told you this is a splash zone. Might get a little wet. So as you guys can see now, after I had my cheeseburger, my Travis Scott burger, I had my apple, I had my cheesecake, what did you say? Chocolate cake, whatever it may be. Chocolate cake. All right, this is kind of where you want your brain to be. But this like basically is balanced out.
Homeostasis.
Homeostasis. Now, this sponge is going to represent the process of reuptake. Now the process of reuptake, what happens is the neurons that are sending the serotonin throughout the body and throughout the brain or whatever, there's a process called reuptake where some of that serotonin gets taken out. All right, it gets taken out. So once you flood the system with serotonin, then the reuptake process happens and it takes a lot of that serotonin out. Anybody want to guess why?
Use the restroom.
To use the restroom? What? So what happens with reuptake though is you're trying to stay at homeostasis, at balance, right? If we didn't have the sponge and we kept feeding our brains and our neurons with serotonin, eventually what would happen is it would spill over. That's why we have to have this reuptake to get some of that water out, okay?
Spillover, also known as mania.
Mania, right, we're gonna get to that. Now, here's the deal. Some people might have something biological going on where there might be something interfering with the amount of serotonin the body produces. All right, that's what this is going to represent, this little plastic baggie. I need to make a hole in it. All right, here we go. Let me put all this back in. So again, this is your brain. This line is where you want it to be balanced. But some people might have some kind of biological deficit that's going to prevent them from filling up their serotonin. So when they eat that cheeseburger, that Travis Scott burger, only a little bit of it is actually going to get in their cup, if you will. They eat that apple, okay?
Just a little bit's gonna get in.
Just a little bit's going to get in. Can you do me a favor, young man? Not in the camera, but can you move mommy's phone, please? Thank you. All right.
It's about to get in mommy's phone.
Then they eat that, what was it, chocolate?
Chocolate cake?
Yeah.
Chocolate cake, same thing. All right, just a little bit is getting
I'm coming into this.
in their brain, okay? So as you can see, they never actually reach that balance. They never reach that optimal level of where you want to be at, that homeostasis, that thing that keeps us chill and relaxed and balanced. We're not super happy, but we're also not depressed or sad, right? When you're at homeostasis. But people who have some kind of blockage of the serotonin, they have to eat more in order to fill up their cup. They need to eat that extra cheeseburger. They need to eat another slice.
Or maybe a slice of pizza.
They need to eat a slice of pizza, okay? Or maybe they need to go bungee jumping and get that thrill. Now you're releasing endorphins, you're also releasing dopamine, all kinds of stuff, okay? But for some reason or another, a lot of times that process is preventing that serotonin from getting throughout the body. Another thing that could also happen is some people have a biological defect, if you will, where the reuptake process, remember that sponge, it works like overdrive, and it's just soaking up a whole bunch of serotonin non-stop. All right, so a person's eating and eating and eating or whatever it may be, but that reuptake is just taking that serotonin away, and they never get to make it to that balanced homeostasis level, okay? So kind of think about that. Some people are born with these biological deficits. Some people can get it as they get older. So the next thing just to talk about briefly too, though, is sometimes this reuptake, it doesn't work fast enough, okay? So now you're eating that cheeseburger, you're eating that apple, you're eating that cheesecake or chocolate cake, whatever it may be, that slice of pizza, and the reuptake, actually there might be something going on where it's not taking out a lot of water at all. Right? So every time you eat, you're going to be filling up your glass, if you will, your brain, your neurons, your neural network with more and more serotonin. People who experience this state of being with their mind and their brain and stuff like that, we call this manic, the manic phase, right? So you think about people who are bipolar. People who are bipolar are either going to be like here, depressed, where they're not getting any serotonin and they're not getting any of that happy hormone, or they're always right here in the manic phase, okay, where there's almost too much serotonin flowing throughout their brain and neural system. They're jumping from one conversation to the next. They're doing risk-taking behavior. People might be telling them, hey, you need to chill out, or are you okay, blah, blah, and something's wrong, what's going on, etc. And they might not hear you because they're on cloud 9 all the time. What do you mean something's wrong with me? I'm great. I'm happier than I've ever been before, because they are at a constant state of mania, because something's happening where their brain is going to be at this level the whole time. So, any questions from you all?
So like if people go on a diet, does the stuff go down or something?
Good question. So if people are on a diet, let's say they're not eating a lot, all right, they're not going to get a lot of serotonin because they're eating maybe some carrots, they ate a little salad,
Lettuce.
maybe ate an apple again, maybe ate half a cheeseburger because they were cheating on their diet or whatever it may be. But they also, people a lot of times when they go on diets, if they're right here,
Or like maybe a little snack.
right, little snack or something. But people who go on diets, and if they don't do it correctly, they will find that they're always going to be irritated, that they might always be angry and easily bothered and stuff like that. They might wake up in the morning with no energy, in a bad mood, something like that, because they don't have enough serotonin.
So what can they do?
So what can they do? There's a lot of things that produce happy hormones. There's other happy hormones like endorphins, for example, epinephrine, norepinephrine, I mean.
That you get from exercising.
You can exercise, you can eat better,
Dance.
you can dance, all right? Exercise, dancing, all that stuff absolutely increases your serotonin levels. Any other questions?
So in the mania stage,
When they're in the mania stage, okay?
Is there a way that it can actually go back to normal?
Yes, very good question. Very good question. I promise you I didn't tell them to ask these questions. These are good questions. So when you're at the mania phase, right? And if your body, biologically, if your body's not able to get all this serotonin out, there are medicines that one can take that will level them out. Okay?
What if they eat too much of the medicine?
If they eat too much of the medicine, it can have a bad effect. It could like mess this whole balance up. But if they take their medication correctly, let's say they're supposed to take 1 pill a day. If they take their pill in the morning, it does just enough to balance them out. To balance them out, exactly.
So basically, it just pour it back in.
Yep, it balances them out, so they're always at that. They stay at that line. Now, if they get off of their medicine and they don't take that medicine, all of a sudden that serotonin starts producing again, and they'll be back at that manic phase. So it's really important if you know anybody who does have bipolar syndrome, you got to let them know, hey, you got to be on your meds, you got to take your meds. But again, at the manic phase, it's going to be really hard to convince them that something is wrong because they're always on cloud 9. They're on top of the world. But again, we know people who actually have bipolar syndrome, a lot of them who don't take their medications like they should. And it is hard to deal with them. They're like my wife said, they're usually like ranting, they're jumping from conversation to conversation. They don't sleep a lot because they can't get tired because they're like on cloud 9. They're always happy and they're always juiced up.
What about the opposite, Dad? What about when people are in the depressed state? What kind of medications can they take to help them?
All right, so you have people who are might have depression, all right, and their cup is always here, their glass is always here. So there are drugs like Prozac, for example, that fights depression, that goes against depression, and what it does is it starts making, because maybe the problem is that this reuptake process is just taking way too much serotonin out. So every time reuptake happens, they're left drained. They're depressed. They're sad. They can't be happy. So if you start taking some drugs, a lot of them, what they'll do is, once you have serotonin, you eat your cheeseburger, it slows down the reuptake process. So it's not taking as much serotonin out. So these people can still have some of that happy juice in their brain, in their neural.
So like,
and those are the
to regular, but it doesn't it works slow.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those medications are called SSRIs, which stands for?
Oh Lord, SSRIs, serotonin
And here's a
reuptake inhibitor. Serotonin, what's the other S?
Here's
Selective serotonin.
Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs. There's a couple of them that I could think of off top. Prozac,
Lexapro,
there's escitalopram, all kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay, so my last question is, can the drug that Andrew was talking about, can they make you go
can some drugs make you be manic or be a maniac? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Some drugs do this right here. A lot of people, so good question, Madeline. So what happens a lot of times is people who can't produce the serotonin naturally, they will start doing things that that increase serotonin. So they might start doing drugs because some of those drugs do
cocaine.
They basically do this to them, and they're like get a real quick push of serotonin boost, right? So then not even energy, just energy, absolutely, but just this feeling of being euphoric on cloud 9, like you're on top of the world, like you're high, okay? And that's what happens is that the drug makes you go here, and slowly but surely, depending on the drug, it does wear off. But one of the problems is that a lot of times your body will then become dependent on that surge of serotonin. And eventually your body will become addicted to that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how addictions start, because people want to stay here. They don't want to be here anymore.
And then that line goes up. You need a bigger cup eventually.
You need a bigger cup.